As Linden has continued to grow, traffic has continued to become a bit more of a problem. But today, I want to take some steps to try and solve at least some of that problem. And I've already gotten started with some of the issues. I've come out to Blackbird Valley Industrial West specifically, and I've changed some of the roads here to have 4 lanes instead of 2 or 3. I've also turned off a bunch of the traffic lights, which honestly isn't the most realistic thing to do. I've also flipped some roads around to be one-way coming out of here, and I've also turned off left turning from this particular road as well. Basically, I just made a bunch of changes that have worked, and traffic is now flowing the way I want it to. And that's also included turning off the pedestrian crossings around this round. Not that it's stopping people, by the way. We do have people jaywalking, and they are going to continue to do that. But for the most part, far fewer people are now coming along here. These guys, for example, are probably about to jaywalk. And in doing this, they do slow down traffic. They do try to run a little bit, but it does slow down traffic. But that's why I turned off the crossings, because a big part of what was slowing the traffic down was the fact that people were crossing. Now, again, the jaywalkers are still doing that, but just far less than they were doing previously. And it has helped to get the traffic moving out of this space much more effectively, and they can still cross down here. I don't get why they don't just use these crossings, or, I mean, I could build some overpasses or underpasses here for the pedestrians as well, which I might do. It might not be a terrible idea, but I did build another connection to this space out to the highway based on some comments. Good Lord, the rain is going sideways. Based on some comments that I saw on the last episode that basically said, hey, you're probably setting yourself up for disaster only having one connection to this space, especially considering every one of these roads has some kind of train going over it. And yeah, this has worked kind of nicely. It does, you know, back up a little bit, but it works for the most part, and it looks pretty good as well. So I'm pretty pleased about this. But that's not to say that we don't have problems elsewhere. This roundabout is particularly, and it's going to be, and we likely have some issues elsewhere in the city too, although none of them. Oh no, we did have one that was highlighted up here. Yeah. All of these roads across the train tracks tend to back up at some point or other. I'm really not too worried about it, because what I'll probably have to do at some point is either get better public transport or just start building some bridges and tunnels that go over or under the train tracks. But what I would like to do today is something really drastic and dramatic that's going to change the layout of Linden forever. This little space here with Rosewood is essentially the first part of this city that we ever built. This was about a month before Skylines II even came out that we built all of this. And I've learned a lot about the game since then, and I'm pretty sure I could do better than this. We also have this bus station with a whole bunch of lines that are causing a whole bunch of issues. And part of that, admittedly, is because for some of the buses to get in here, they have to sort of cut across themselves, and it's just not the most efficient building to begin with, and it's also just not a great spot for it. I could fix that. I could move it. I could readjust some of those bus lines. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to my 18 bus lines, and I'm very tempted to delete all of them. Now, some of these are very popular lines. We can sort by passengers, and we can see 597, 468, 407, and so on and so on. And that's not bad. This one has 98% usage. The top usage is that one, then 86, 83, 57. But I sort of want to delete them because I'm pretty sure I could do them better. My only concern in doing this is that deleting bus lines doesn't delete the bus stops. So I would have to go around my city deleting every single one of those tiny bus stops, which is kind of a pain. I'm not going to lie. As much as I like being able to place the bus stops themselves, it would be nice if I didn't have to go and delete all of these tiny, tiny little things, but I'm going to do it. I'm talking this long. I'm rambling because I'm a little nervous about doing this, but I'm going to delete every one of my bus lines. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to bulldoze the bus station because we don't need it anymore. Now the buses are going to come back. That's not really my major solution to fixing all of my problems. It's just that I kind of need to reclaim a lot of this space. I'm going to be bulldozing a lot of things. So a lot of my time today is going to be spent with the game paused, because if I don't, my plan isn't going to work. So this train line kind of needs to go. This road needs to go. This roundabout needs to go. And a lot of the stuff that we've kind of built in here is going to need to be bulldozed as well. Now, not all of it needs to go. We don't need to get rid of too much, but a lot of the space in here needs to be taken back from all of these people. And we're going to need to take some of this as well. What am I bulldozing there? That's a unique building. What have we got? Is anything in here something I don't want to... What am I... Oh, it's this guy. Yeah, the radio mast is going to need to be moved. Okay. Let's go ahead and just put you over here as sort of a temporary thing. And then we'll go through and just bulldoze a bunch of these buildings as well. We'll get rid of these paths and get rid of you. Now, we are most likely going to have to get rid of some of Rosewood. This little chunk of Rosewood right here is likely going to have to go away, including this road. So is that a tram road? It actually isn't, which is fine. I mean, I'm not unpausing the game anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But what we'll do is get rid of all of this, and I'm going to have to get rid of all of these buildings as well. And then my next step is going to be to just try and flatten this terrain a little bit, because we do need a relatively flat space. We'll go for a bit of a bigger brush and just flatten this guy out, because we're going to be making a roundabout. We're not going to be using the roundabout tool for it though, because I need something a bit bigger. And so what I'm going to do is use this little connection between these roads as my midpoint. So we'll use just some regular small roads here. And I don't know exactly where my midpoint's going to be. It should be, well, roughly the middle of that road, but I don't think that's going to play too nicely. If I turn off existing geometry, I don't think that's going to help. If I turn off zoning cell length, that does help. So this is going to be our midpoint, which I realize isn't, oh, it's not going to play nicely with my grid until I upgrade it, which I don't know if I'm going to do. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. I'll tell you what, we'll stick with the avenues just because it's going to give me the zoning that I want. We'll turn off our guidelines and we're just going to punch an avenue pretty much straight through the middle here. And that gives me a perfect little grid, which is exactly what I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build myself a custom roundabout, which if I remember right, needs to go anti-clockwise. So we'll go something like this. We'll say, I guess 4 tiles off of here. We can go up a little bit to here and we'll go in like this. And I think that's going to give me exactly what I want for this roundabout. So we'll do exactly the same thing here. We'll go 4 and 4 down. We can go 4 to about here. And I might need to change this guy into an avenue just so things snap properly, just to make sure that I don't, you know, get off a little bit here. And we want to go to about that spot. And we want to do exactly the same thing right about here. So we have this beautiful custom roundabout. And it's a bit big. It's got a good size to it. It's not perfectly flat, but honestly, not the end of the world. We can deal with that. And so before we continue, I do want to mention that this design for the interchange that we're about to build is not something I come up with. I found a video on YouTube recently. It was recommended to me from a channel called Mike Builds, and I will link that video in the description. The editing is fantastic, and it's such a short, to the point video. It makes me jealous of how much I ramble because it's so good. But that's where I got this design from, and I think it would be perfect for this space. We are essentially building what is going to be a pretty compact interchange for, you know, coming off the highway, going straight through the city, but also getting out to Pinewood and out to Rosewood and beyond. And I might try and do a couple more projects like this in the not too distant future, but we're not going to be doing it right away either, because it's, you know, it's a bit complex. There's a lot to be done here. Is what there is to be done here. I also don't know if I needed to get rid of that little bit of road just there. I think I can get away with keeping that little connection gone. So I guess, oh man, I guess what I'm gonna need to do here is bring a road underneath this, bring a road over the top of it, and then I need to connect everything around. And it's a really cool project. This is such a cool thing to build here. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap out this guy for a 2-lane road, which is going to go right there in the middle. And then what I need to do is I need to get myself just a couple of guideline roads right here. So we'll do something like this. We'll take this guy out, and then we can use a 2-lane one-way road with the parallel mode on. We increase the offset to 2. And then if I just do this, we can punch straight through. We can go straight to the other side. I'm going to need to move. Ooh, we've got a lot of things to move here. We're going to move a transformer station. I'm just going to bulldoze you for now. I'm going to clear out a bunch of these buildings as well, just so I can really get an idea of what I'm working with. So all of those guys can go away. And I guess what we should do is measure out the distance from here. I need to turn off parallel mode, measure out the distance from here to... Oh, this is not going to work all that nicely. Basically, I need this to be symmetrical, is what I need it to be. So I need there to be a certain distance on the other side. And so this, if I've done my job right, should absolutely annihilate traffic going into and out of the city. There are some things I want to do to it before we get too crazy with it, though. It's obviously also not perfect in every single way. It definitely could be a little better in some places, a little bit neater, but we are going to be turning off the crosswalks on all of these sections of road because we don't want people interrupting the flow of traffic. We can do some overpasses, underpasses, and all that good stuff at some point. Definitely at some point. But just for now, we're going to turn all of those off to make sure that everybody's able to just get around here nice and quickly. And let's just double check that I've got every single crosswalk, which I think I absolutely have now, which is perfect. That's what we're looking for. We're also going to go in here and do some little grass sections just to make this a little fancier. I actually really like the idea of doing the grass median right there. At the same time, having traffic just flow straight up there is probably better. So we'll do grass sort of around the ends of these avenues, which are obviously going to be continued and connected to the rest of the city. But just for a little bit of decoration, we'll do this. We'll do some grass on sort of the insides of these guys. Maybe grass just along all of these. We'll do some trees in here as well, just to shake it up a little bit and make it look all fancy like. Let's get grass out here as well and out here as well. And I think that's all of my roads covered in grass. In terms of trees, we'll do trees, I want to say on the outsides, and we'll sort of bring that down to the avenues as well, just to try and not necessarily hide that this thing exists. There's not really any good way to do that, but just to make it a little bit more pleasant, because it is going to be designed to take a lot of traffic, and hopefully it's going to resolve a lot of our issues. And then finally, we'll do some little sound barriers just there. We'll do some little sound barriers just there and over here as well. And in the original design of this interchange, the one that I saw on YouTube myself, the ramps were a little less steep. They were a bit longer, but I'm trying to scale this thing down to fit it into this space as best I can. And I think, honestly, this does okay. This isn't a terrible way of doing this. It's not perfect, but it'll definitely do the job. Now, what I want to do is connect from this guy up to this guy. It's an 8.2% incline. I don't necessarily love that, but I think just for the time being, I'm going to allow it. And yeah, it could be better, but it will do. I also don't love that. Oh, you know, I might change this guy out for an avenue, which is definitely going to slow it down. But I think, all things considered, given that we are trying to focus on the fact that we have all these lanes in here, I honestly think swapping this guy out for a bit of a bigger road might be the best shout. It's not going to work perfectly with this interchange because at some point we are going to have a lane that basically wants to U-turn. But I think for now, we'll slow traffic down as it comes into the city. And then for here, I mean, if I do this, we're always going to have a lane that wants to U-turn. So I think we'll just sort of leave it like that for now. It's not perfect, but it'll do the job. But let's not forget, I also have to figure out how I'm getting a train to go across this, because this thing it's already elevated. So my theory is that I might just want to elevate it a little bit further. Now this bridge is at about, I think, 10 meters. So the train's at 15 currently, or it's going to go to 15. So if I bring the train up to 20 meters as it approaches this intersection, my hope at the very least is plus 3.1% incline is not terrible. We're not going to be going for a curve here. So we're just going to go straight across, which we can absolutely do. And then we'll bring it straight back down here. Hopefully getting a nice little connection. What's the incline we're looking at? Minus, I don't like that it's negative 5.9, but I think it's going to do. And honestly, that might even be too high. I wonder if I could go lower. I wonder if I could get maybe 16 meters on this, because that does seem a little bit too much right there. And it turns out I absolutely can. That is much better. It's still a bit of an incline for the train, but I think that's going to look really cool once we have a train going through there and once we have this all connected. So I guess at this stage, that's what we should do. We should start to connect everything together and see how this is going to work. If it's going to work. That's kind of the thing with this. I'm not 100% sure. I've not tested this. Usually when I start to make and plan big changes to Linden, I will do some tests. I didn't this time because I'm an idiot, but I'm hoping for the best on this one. I'm hoping we can do some good stuff. So we'll bring this guy. Can I bring it straight through without it getting to be really annoying? Is that going to connect? It does. Zoning here is going to be weird, but honestly, that's fine. We're dealing with roads of different shapes and sizes anyway. And then this guy is going to be a case of punching straight through and I guess connecting to here somehow. That, again, doesn't connect perfectly, but I think we're going to have to deal with the fact that that's maybe going to be how this works. I don't know. I don't love that. I don't like that it doesn't connect perfectly. What else can we turn off? Zoning cell length maybe is going to help us out a little bit. Not really. Doesn't help us in the slightest. All right, so these connections are not going to work perfectly, which is fine. I can detail around those and make it look interesting at some point. But now what we're going to have to do is make a really annoying change, which is that we're going to have to basically just punch through this entire space, which I'm not looking forward to doing, but it is going to give us a connection to this avenue up here, which I think is probably where this should connect to. And then what I'll probably do is put some paths alongside this new road so that we're not going to be dealing with zoning getting weird. The issue, of course, is that we are just getting, we're getting rid of a lot of things here. We're getting rid of a lot of houses and they'll rebuild. We will still have this here. It's just that we are forever changing what this neighborhood's going to look like. And it also means that a little corner of my cemetery is going to be going away as well, which I don't love, but we're going to just sort of deal with it. We might also be losing a bus stop in here, which really isn't the end of the world since we don't have buses right now. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty substantial change is what this is going to be. But what we'll do is we'll go to here and we are just going to attempt, and the game's really struggling right now because I've displaced a lot of Sims is what I've done. So I'm going to go to about here. And it's ugly in a few places. That's kind of to be expected. And then what I'm going to do is go to, hopefully, I'd like to not snap to, I'd like to snap here is what I'd like to do. Because that's pretty much the middle of that road, which is perfect. And then this guy just needs to run and connect straight to that guy, which it might not want to do by the looks of it. That's going to be great. Okay. Maybe what we do instead is we'll punch through here. So I have that parallel section. We'll take you out and then we'll just try and do like a little curve here or something, or maybe use some guidelines to get this to line up properly. I don't know. This is going to be a bit of a challenge to make this work. There we go. That's what I want. That's a bit better. You can go away. This section arguably could be an 8-lane divided road. Because then, oh no, that's too big. Never mind. It's going to be 3. It's fine. It's totally fine. Let's tidy up these guys. Let's make this look a little bit less terrible. And let's start getting rid of the zoning on the avenue because we don't need that anymore. Okay, so this has turned out to be a little bit more of a mess and a little bit more complicated than I wanted it to be, but I'm sort of okay with this as a layout. It is a little sad to look at what Rosewood used to be and just to see how much of it we sort of cut away. But one of the benefits of the way we're building this interchange is that we can build right on this interchange, and that is something that I'm going to want to do. But for now, I want to go in here and I'm basically going to take out all of the zoning that used to be in all of these little spaces, just to make sure that this is nice and neat and just to make sure that we can do exactly what I want to do with this. So I think I've got just about everything that needs to go. And then what I'm going to do, just for the time being, is I'm going to go right alongside this this new sort of avenue. And I'm basically going to get rid of all of the zoning that would be on the avenue. And in theory, if I do that and I do it right, it's going to give me just a bit more zoning in all the little spaces to the sides of this thing, which is what I'm looking for. So we'll bring this down to here, and we'll bring this guy sort of straight through here. The game's really struggling right now because if we zoom in, there are so many sims that have been displaced from so many buildings. My frame rate's kind of terrible. I imagine the simulation speed is going to be terrible when we get that running as well, but I think this is going to be for the best. And immediately this is being tidied up a little bit. Some of these roads don't line up perfectly with the existing grid, but honestly, that's just sort of the way things are going to be. And I guess this space in here is going to be decorated as another part of the, or an existing part of the cemetery grounds. So we'll get some bushes sort of coming down along here, and we'll tidy that up. This little corner is probably going to be some kind of park, I would imagine. And then a lot of this space is going to be row houses again. So we'll go in, we'll get ourselves residential. We have European, we have medium density row housing. And essentially what I think I'm going to do, and what I honestly might do, is go in here and change these guys up a little bit. And instead of, oh, I wonder if I could get more dense with this. Hold on. We're going to experiment a little bit because we did recently start playing around with the alleys, right? So if we look at this space, by all means, I could bring a little alleyway sort of down through here, and we could get some different sized row houses in here. That might be kind of fun to play around with. Do an alleyway right there, and we could get some different sized row houses. I don't necessarily know if I want to do this, but I might experiment with it because this might be kind of fun. So we'll bring an alley across here. We'll bring one across here, bulldoze the little excess parts. And then my thinking would be take out these guys. We'll let these ones just build first. So the row houses on the side is going to be, 3 and 3, and that's fine. So we'll let those. I really shouldn't have run the simulation there. Okay. I realize I unpaused to let these guys start building. What's going on here? What are we going to be seeing with traffic and people? Good Lord, there are so many people moving around. The simulation's really going to be struggling, but I'm going to let these guys build. That is not what I wanted right there. That is by no means what I was looking for. Hold on a minute. Let me just fix this so it doesn't start doing that kind of nonsense. Put you back in there, let it build. And then what we'll do is we'll fill sort of this space as well. And there are tiny little row houses. So my thinking is that at the very least, what we've done here is we've created just a bit more variety, really. And I think it's kind of exciting. So I'm curious to see how this will play out. I think it's going to look pretty good from a distance. And I'm going to do the same thing down here as well. And just so there's an idea of how many Sims I have just booted out of their houses, it's a lot. It's a lot. The game's really struggling right now, but I think it's going to be worth it. All right, so with a bunch of the zoning back in here, something I do want to do is get some zoning on the main roads themselves, because these are going to be prime locations for commercial zoning. Basically, we can get a bunch of shops in here, and I think that's going to be a good thing. So we'll bring a little road across here. I don't love what's going on with this road. I don't love that the zoning seems to be getting priority over the avenue. So maybe this path can go out. Maybe we do some parking on that side. But for this space, what I was thinking was that we would do something like EU mixed housing so that we're sort of staying roughly within the theme of the area, which is that it is EU based buildings. The only issue is that EU mixed housing is sort of going to look like this. It might not be the best shout. It might not look exactly how I want it to, but I'm willing to give it a shot in this little space just to see what we can do with it. And then we have this corner as well. I'm kind of wondering if I take out that path, can I play around with some EU mixed housing here? Is that going to let me, I mean, it lets me build something. It's definitely letting me build something, which is better than building nothing. So we'll go with that for now and see what exactly we can do. I'm also going to bring some paths sort of down around these guys because I do want to try and get some connections. I do want to try and get people walking through here as much as I possibly can. I'm also wondering, can I do this and then delete that crosswalk so that I do still have the connection. There we go. I want the connection to the road, but not the crosswalk that comes along with it. And honestly, that's going to make my life a lot easier. I didn't really realize I could do that because now this guy can have a connection. This guy already has a connection, and I can just go in and say, get rid of you. So again, we have that little connection to the road just without the crosswalk, and that's actually kind of a big deal. Now I wonder, could I get some buildings coming around this corner as well? Because what I could do is just hug the backs of these little row houses like that, bulldoze you, and I absolutely can. So what we'll do is fill this space with some more mixed use zoning, which is hopefully going to, I don't know what you're doing. I don't think we want that to behave that way. That looks like it's going to be on this section of road, which it shouldn't be. So we'll just take that out and maybe replace it with a park. Maybe we just bring a little path through here as well to connect those together. And that should be all right. It's going to be a bit of a bigger building in the area, but it's also going to give some commercial space to the district as well, which I think is pretty important. And of course, we have all of this space to rebuild as well, which we're absolutely going to do. But to be completely honest, my priority is going to be making sure that Rosewood sort of looks okay again, because right now it's definitely taken a hit and it definitely needs some detailing, but we'll get there. And these actually, they look pretty good. I'm actually really, really pleased with this building in the corner. It looks so good for this little space. I absolutely love that. Even if the avenue is, it's a little bit big. It's a little wider than I think it maybe needs to be, but I like this. It's good. It's coming together. All right, so now that this is coming together even more, we've got a bunch of the mixed use zoning here. We have a bunch more mixed use zoning coming up around here. And I've decided to avoid building anything down here because if I do, then that's going to mean that the only traffic that can get to these buildings will be traffic leaving the city. They'll have to go to this entire interchange to get back into the city, which is already having some problems. And I'm a little concerned about that, but I'm going to assume that those problems are caused by a lack of buses going to industry and also perhaps people moving into the city for all of the new buildings. Basically, we're going to have issues. I'm just hoping that they'll clear up eventually. Now, I do want to fill in this space a little bit, and I do want to fill in all of these empty spaces, and I'm also thinking of bringing some little alleys down through here just to sort of make up for the lack of the row houses since we got rid of a bunch of them. But I do think it would be a good idea to come in here and just start dealing with some of the other bits of demand that we have right now. So I'm going to take out this building. I'm going to pause while I do that. And I'm basically going to say that I want to bring a 2-lane road straight through here, straight under those tracks and straight up to about there. And this is going to be a good little space for a few different things. I'm also going to bring a road up to, we'll bring it down like this actually. It's going to be messing up my grids a little bit, but honestly, they're messed up enough as it is, so it's not really the end of the world. Let me see. Can I get this to connect without it totally screwing things up? I totally can, which is great. Let me just put these guys here so that it just gives me my my grids as a priority on this new road, which it's not wanting to do. So what I'll do is just put the path right back there and put a path right in here as well. And again, I just want to build some stuff in here. I want to get some buildings, some commercial, some offices, and just get some of the demand going a little bit. What I might also do is, I guess I could build something on this road. I'm thinking it's probably going to be more mixed use EU housing just because it's going to sort of hide what I build back here, which is fine. We also have a lot of landscaping. Well, not a lot of landscaping, but we have a bit of landscaping that I did back here that I guess we're going to go ahead and just get rid of. So we'll get a bit of a bigger brush just to clear out all of these trees. Obviously, we're going to need to do more landscaping in here to make this place look nice once all the new buildings are in. But for now, we'll clear that out, clear out that bit of path, clear out those 2 little trees right there. And I suppose I should also get rid of, you know what, we'll get rid of these buildings. Apparently, I can't get rid of all these paths, which is a bit, there we go. So we'll go ahead and clear these guys out as well. And this entire area, my goal with this complete revamp, well, part of my goal is to make this space really nice and walkable. That's why I'm doing so many paths in here and why I want to do a bunch of paths in here as well. But what I'm thinking I can also do is probably play around with different sizes of buildings. We can use these little these little alleyways as a nice way to do that. So we'll get some different sizes in here. I might even go a little smaller again. I might do something like this, or let's see, maybe something a little bit more along these lines, just so we have just these little alleyways. I just want to play around with the scale of the buildings, really. That's kind of my goal here. So what if we did a little alley? Can I get one in there? Is that going to let me do it? It absolutely is. I'm just going to play around a little bit is what we're going to do. We're going to play around a little bit and see what we can do with the different sizes of buildings. We'll have something kind of weird and interesting in here. We'll do the same thing over on this side as well. Bring an alleyway up to about there. Seems like a great spot. And we'll bring one, maybe let's turn on my snapping. Bring one through, say, here down to about there. It's going to let me fill up a bunch of that space as well. Going to have to extend this path, though, to make it behave properly. And maybe on this side, we don't extend it over because I can put buildings on this interchange. And I think what I'm going to do for those guys is once again go with the mixed use stuff, because it's going to play nicely with sort of the European theme that we have going on around here. And then I think what we'll also do, oh, we just got some regular old commercial buildings here. I don't love those, but I think what we'll do is see if I can I snap to the sides of these guys? Is that something that's going to let me do? It sort of is, which is actually pretty good. So we'll bring this little path right down through this entire gap. Right out here is perfect. And that just tidies up the zoning on this road. It gives us a connection through there. And then all these little gaps in the buildings will have paths going through and connecting back and forth. And it's all going to be pretty good is what it's going to be. And you know, I've got to say, as much as I don't love how sort of bland this space looks, it is essential. It is necessary. We do kind of need it. Although it's very tempting to go in and change out some of the commercial plots for higher density stuff, just to get a bit of variety in the heights of the buildings. Because I think that's kind of what the space is missing, and I think that's kind of what I'm looking for in this area. So we'll get some larger commercial buildings in here just to try and break things up a little bit and try and make this place look, I don't know, a little bit more interesting than it does right now. Because something that I liked about the train that we have going through here is that at one point it was cutting through a bunch of tall buildings, and it's not doing that now, and it is a little boring looking, I think, as a result. So I think maybe we swap these guys out for some higher density buildings. Maybe we try and get some stuff that actually fits in here, since that's kind of necessary. That's a little bit more interesting looking, I suppose. I think that's what we'll go for. Get some higher density buildings there, so the train's cutting through all of them. Maybe over here, I don't know, this corner I feel could probably be higher density as well. So we have the train going past a couple of tall buildings, and then maybe, I don't think this one could be high density. I think this corner is underneath the tracks, so that's definitely not going to work. Honestly, this might be enough. This little change here, these few buildings might be enough. And then I think putting some trees into this space, which we have a lot of trees to cover this entire area with, I think that's going to make it look that little bit better. And I will say maybe this building could be swapped out for something a bit higher density as well. Or, well, two buildings a little higher density. Can I get one building in there instead of two? Is that going to be an option? Take out you. Yeah, one larger building. We'll do a little path through here just to connect things through. And that does get rid of the connection to that alleyway, though, that I really want that connection. So instead, can I do this? I absolutely can. Let's get rid of this crosswalk since we don't need it. And that is going to be absolutely perfect for that space. Again, some trees through there should make things that little bit better. And I suppose that's kind of roughly where we're at. We should probably start to landscape all of this new space. Although maybe I should, and I think I'm going to bring a little road down here. I think just a regular old road is going to come down to right under there. And I think I'm going to bring some alleyways back and forth through here just to get some more row houses. I might do the same on this side as well, just to get some more row houses, just to make this place look that little bit more interesting. I think that's going to make the place that bit better. So let's very quickly, let's see what I'm going to do with this. We'll bring a little bit of an alleyway over to, I'm going to say over to here. I think we do exactly the same thing on this side. I think we just go ahead and bring it straight out to about there. It's going to mess with the zoning a little bit if I'm not careful, but I think that'll be good. And do I want to continue this road underneath here? I guess we can think about it. So we'll keep that road for now. But when it comes to zoning all of this, what we'll do is get our medium density row housing. We can actually do a really nice little split here. We can do 4 on that side and we'll let those guys build. We can do 4 sort of down here as well. We'll let those guys build. We'll fill in these corner spaces. And then over here, do I want row houses right next to these existing buildings? I don't think it would hurt. So we'll go for it. We'll bulldoze. Oh, that one doesn't actually want to build. That's actually probably fair enough. We'll do the same thing back here. We can go ahead and fill in the little corner spots here as well. I think it's about to start snowing. It is winter, so I think things are about to get a little bit festive, which I'm kind of okay with and I'm kind of excited about. And then right about here, we can actually get a little larger with these guys. I think we can have the tracks going over the houses, which I'm kind of excited about as well. I'm really keen to see what this looks like. We'll bring this down to here. We'll go ahead and do this at the end as well. And no, we can't. We can't have the tracks going over. Oh, no, we can. We can have it going over some of them, which is pretty cool. Not going to be a great place to live, let's be honest. But that's probably fair enough. I'm also seeing some... Oh, God, the graphics are getting weird again. Here we go. The game's not happy with me today. Okay, so I am much happier with this. I did connect it out to this avenue as well because I figured that was probably for the best. And I think what we'll do is maybe just continue to bring that right down to this road as well, which is going to connect it down to this little coastal road that we have. I say coastal, this little road that goes along the banks of the river. I don't know if I want to do the row houses in front of this hospital is kind of where I'm at though. So what I might do, I was thinking of doing another hospital building in front of this, but what I might do instead is we'll continue sort of the row houses through here. We can maybe just block some of the zoning on this road for now. I don't know if I'm going to be keeping that that way, but we'll do a little something like this. We'll let these guys sort of build and hopefully we'll get a relatively consistent size on most of them. I'm not too sure if these guys can actually extend further back underneath the train tracks. I'm guessing some of them can't. But then what we could also do is we can come over here and say that maybe these guys are also going to be row houses. So we'll let all of that build nice and quickly. We'll go ahead and make sure it's all on the same road like this. And then maybe on this side of things, what we do instead is go for some EU medium density housing. And this is sort of going to feather out into everything else that isn't EU styled. Or we could do more mixed housing just to go for something a bit more dense along here, which might not be a terrible idea. I think that's what we'll do. We'll go for the mixed housing. And I think if anything, I'm going to tear out just a line of this zoning, which does mean that all of these buildings now need to go away, which is completely fine. So we'll get rid of the ones that we don't want. And that's going to let me do a path down there. And I think having a path down here is going to be nice because I can also do a little bit of landscaping down here with some trees just to, I don't know, act as a natural sound barrier, I guess. And you know, I've got to be honest, I almost don't like this. It's weird. There's something about it that I don't know. I think these buildings are almost too tall next to the little row houses, especially these guys. Like, imagine looking out your back window and it's just this. Just a flat, bright yellow wall. Maybe the best thing to do here would be to just turn this into some kind of little park. We could probably do some plazas through here, and that is something we're going to want in a lot of this space. But maybe just a little small park right there, a little small park right there, and we'll do some landscaping and some detailing in the middle of this space just to make it seem a little bit nicer. I think that's probably the best thing to do with this. It is going to mean that the backyards of these houses are now just open to this main road, which isn't good, but it's probably fine. We can make it work. We can do some detailing in there to make it look a little bit nicer. And I mean, if I wanted to, I could just do some row houses in here just to fill the space with those. That might not be the worst thing, I guess. I don't love the giant hospital being right across the road from them, but I think this at the minute looks better than having the mixed use buildings in there. Anyway, I've been talking about landscaping for long enough. Let's go ahead and start filling this space with a bunch of trees. And I'm not going to get too fancy with it. At least not everywhere. I think this is going to be just a tree brush. This is going to have to be done by hand. And a lot of these spaces are going to be done by hand as well. But I'm going to make this look as nice as I can make it look with trees that aren't fully grown. It's going to be about a year before we can actually, a year in game, obviously, before we can see what this is actually going to turn out like. But I'm hoping for good things. All right, so now we just need to wait for all of the new trees to grow, which, as I've said, is going to take a little while. So what I'm going to do is come in here and I'm just going to make this space look that little bit more interesting. I think having a line of trees down the middle of this road is going to look pretty good. So we'll go ahead and just get that into all of this space right down to about here should be pretty good. And I think once those grow, it'll help to sort of cover a bit of this avenue. I think it'll just help to bring the whole space together a little bit and make it feel a little bit more tight-knit and like it's been here for a while. I mean, it hasn't been, obviously, but I think it's going to help in the long term. Now, we need to do something about the buses. I'm kind of happy with how this has come together. I think once these trees grow, it'll look like it's been here. It's not going to look like a patchwork mess like it sort of is right now. But I need to get some buses in here because obviously we have none right now. We have absolutely no buses whatsoever. We're down to 78,000, actually 78,000 people still using public transport. It's not bad when you consider that we don't have buses anymore, but we do need to get some buses and we can start relatively simple. We have some bus lines that are going to loop around a lot of these spaces out here. So that's kind of where I'm thinking we'll start. And I guess what we can do is try to figure out good ways to get people to all of these different places. So we have Evergreen Crossing and Blackwood Croft. I think that's kind of where we could start. Although something going around this entire space probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I don't know that we need bus lines to go sort of right into each of these spaces. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do to begin with, is bring something kind of around here that just touches sort of close to each of these little neighborhoods. I don't think we need something that goes to absolutely everywhere. Although something coming out here would be kind of fantastic. I do think we want to go that way. So we'll stop here as well. We can go ahead and come out to here, which is going to have it sort of loop across itself in a weird way, which is totally fine. And then we'll bring it up and into here. I said we'll bring it up and into here. Thank you very much, City Skylines 2. We can also bring it over to here. And then we'll bring it into this other neighborhood as well. I don't think we need to necessarily stop here since we have a stop up there. So we'll go down this way. We can probably cut it up through here. It's a bit of a weird one. It sort of loops out on itself, and then we'll have it come over to here as well, which, oh no, that loops back on itself in a kind of annoying way. So we'll tell you what we'll do instead. We'll have this come out to Primrose Campus as well. So it's sort of covering absolutely everything. It's decent enough coverage. It could definitely be better. But then what we can do is have it come back down into this space on the way back, if it's going to let me do it, which apparently it doesn't want to do. Hello, cities, are you gonna work with me here? I want to use I'd like to use this stop if you wouldn't mind. Apparently it doesn't want to let me do that, which is interesting. So it can go there now, but apparently if I go out here, it doesn't want to come back down. There we go. So now it wants to work with me. Now it wants to go to there. And then I guess it can just sort of cut straight across back to here. And that's going to loop around all of the suburbs. And that seems like a pretty good setup. So it goes to this elementary school, and out to Primrose Campus, which is honestly pretty solid coverage. So that's going to be bus line 1, and I'm going to name these guys as we go. So line number 1 is going to be, I guess, just suburb loop is what we'll call it. So it's kind of self-explanatory. So suburb loop is totally fine. And then we are going to want something that goes from the suburbs to, I guess, towards the high school, and I guess towards the college is going to be sort of the next thing. Although we do have this college out here, so maybe not necessarily, maybe just sort of towards the high school is what we're going to be looking for. And so now we have 7 bus lines. We have one that goes around the suburbs, one that goes from the suburbs to the high school. We have a loop around Emerson Square. We have a loop around Pinewood, a loop around the island that we built in the last episode. And then we have a run from the old town to the regional services and a run from Emerson to the college island. The old town, by the way, I'm basically referring to as this little spot right here. We have a couple of stops in here that are going to be crazy busy. They are going to be ridiculously busy because there's a lot of buses that stop in this space. Honestly, I might build another little bus station in here, but I actually got thinking that maybe that's what we build in front of the hospital. Maybe a bus station here wouldn't be such a terrible idea, assuming we can fit it in here, which, honestly, if I got rid of some of those houses and this road, I think I might be able to. I don't love that I've just built these guys and I'm already bulldozing them, but this does seem like the kind of space that would maybe make sense for a building like this. It's relatively central. It's also going to fill up the space really nicely. It goes underneath the train tracks, which is pretty cool. And then we can go ahead and say, you know, electric bus recharging. We can say, give me whatever this is, which is, it's a taxi spot. And then we can also say extra platforms is probably a solid idea. It does mean that this road sort of dead ends right here, which is whatever, I suppose. I think if we really wanted to, we could push this little road straight through so it doesn't quite just have the same little dead end going there. So we'll push you through to that spot. We can de-zone this side of things. And then, honestly, I don't know if these guys are necessarily going to want to live here. That doesn't seem like a great place to live. So maybe what we do is swap this out with a little bit of low density commercial just to be a bit different in there. And maybe we do sort of the same thing here. A little bit of commercial in that spot isn't necessarily going to hurt. And then honestly in here as well, I think we do exactly the same thing. A little bit of commercial, maybe some low density offices just to be a bit different. And then a little bit of low density commercial just right next to here as well, just to break things up a bit. So it's a bit different. And I kind of like that. I think that'll be okay. I think that's kind of how we're going to do things. We can also get rid of this path since we don't need it anymore. And I guess any bus lines that are coming through here, which I think right now is just one, are going to have to loop in here. And annoyingly, because of the way I've built this, it means that they're going to be looping over themselves. I really don't want them to do that. And I think the only way I can fix that would be to shuffle this over and push the buses out onto this road, which maybe that is what we do. Maybe that's how we're going to sort of solve this little problem. So this guy, yeah, this road right here specifically is going to come out to about here. We're going to want to put a cut in it right about there and bring this over. And of course, we're going to have some issues with the train tracks. So this guy is going to have to go for just a second here while I figure this out. But my thinking would be run it over there. We can hopefully flip this guy around. I don't know what's going on with this line. I think that's a bus line, but hopefully we can flip you around and put you right about there. And then that should mean that if I go to my buses and I go to you and I say go to there, that's what I want. I want it to go sort of back out the, you know, on this side so it doesn't kind of cross itself. That's kind of ideal. I also want to see what this red line is. That is suburb to high school. That is Emerson College. So let's do suburb to high school on this platform so that all the buses are coming down and going through. And then maybe what we do is say that this road should be bus lanes only. I feel like that would kind of make sense. I don't know if traffic is going to stick to that. They probably won't, but it's probably not a terrible idea to give it a shot. Can I do bus lanes on pedestrian roads? No. That was wishful thinking, I guess. Can I do bus lanes in an alley? Oh, I do like that. I like that it has that little thing going on there. I don't think I can do bus lanes on it though. No. So I guess we'll just stick with this guy since it's relatively straightforward. That looks okay. A little bit of a bump there is nothing to worry about. Take out that bit of alleyway, get rid of you guys, and we'll just do a bit of commercial zoning in these spaces as well. A little bit of office zoning there just for some variety. And then I guess in here, we can do exactly the same thing. Get rid of the park, get rid of the paths, and we'll do a little bit commercial right here. And we'll just do a bit of office right there. And that should be totally fine, assuming it builds. And you know, I've got to say, seeing this entire thing covered in snow is making me really happy. I do like how this has turned out. I do think we should do some landscaping in and around this roundabout, but I think we can do that a little bit later on. It also makes me really happy to see that this thing has come together, and I do think this looks better in front of the hospital than having a bunch of houses looked in front of the hospital. So this is a nice little improvement. The only thing I'm thinking I'm going to do before we wrap things up for today is that I need to come in here. And essentially, I need to create some kind of way for pedestrians to get across here without, you know, jaywalking, which is what they're doing right now. So I'm going to take out these paths, and I'm going to do my best to try and create a nice little pedestrian bridge thing right here. And I'm wondering, can I get these to snap nicely? I'm hoping I can. I'm hoping I don't need to go crazy high on this either, because we can do, what are we at right now? 6.25. I don't need it to bridge over the road perfectly, but I need it to do something a bit like this, or something a bit like this, which doesn't seem to want to play nicely with everything I've got going on. So we'll do a very, very simple little bridge right here, since that seems like it'll play a bit better. It would have been nice to get something like this. And honestly, I might try and get something like that, just because I think it might actually be a little bit better. So if I go for, let's see, if I go for you and I say I want this guy, I don't want it snapping to the sides of buildings. I do want it snapping to the zoning grid. I should, well, I guess not. Maybe I have to go a bit higher with it. We're at 6.25, 7.5 meters. What if I go back to here? Is that going to let me do it? No, it seems to want to misbehave a little bit, which is really unfortunate. It would have looked really good if we could do that, but apparently that's not going to be the case. So 6.25 meters for this guy to about there should be totally fine. And then in theory, all I need to do is bring it back down to ground level and punch it straight through to about there, which is now going to let people cross over. And we'll do exactly the same thing on this side, punch it straight through to about there. And again, that should now let people cross over there without having to jaywalk, which is what they were doing before, and it is causing problems with traffic. So hopefully that's going to be a nice improvement to that space. We don't need to do the same down here. No one really seems to be jaywalking. We don't have anyone oh, we do have people jaywalking here. Interesting. I mean, that's not good. There's definitely less of them doing it though, because we have a crossing right about here. So I don't know if we need an overpass for that particular spot. And right down here, there doesn't really seem to be anyone jaywalking, so I don't think it's the end of the world. I think this might have been the only place that we needed a bridge, and it's very busy. I like seeing that though. That is great to see. Can I upgrade you? Can I get this thing in here? No, distance too long apparently. That's really unfortunate. It would have, like, that would look so, I'm tempted to try and get this thing in here because I think it would look so good, but I don't know. I think we'll leave it for now. We still have people jaywalking, by the way. There's still people running across here, which is really annoying. Also, I don't know what's going on with that garbage truck, but fair enough. This is at least an improvement. This is definitely an improvement. Most people are using the bridge. And so I suppose with this little bit of landscaping done on these particular corners of the roundabout, and with this bridge now built, the last thing to do today is going to be to redefine what Rosewood actually is, which it turns out is going to be slightly tricky given that it is snowing and I can't really see where everything needs to go, but we're going to try anyway. So basically, I'm just going to drag out the corners of this district to cover pretty much what I think it should cover, which is all of this new space. Oh, we're done. That was, that was so much. Okay. I made that really dramatic, but yeah, that's Rosewood now is what it is. We still have Pinewood North and Pinewood South. We have this new space as well. Well, it's not new, but we have this rebuilt space that I should probably define as something. And I'm also realizing that I don't think we have well, what have we got in terms of fire coverage in here? I'm almost tempted to say we should have built a fire station in here, built a proper decent sized fire station in this space instead of just zoning it with generic offices and all that good stuff. But it does look okay. The, couple of random higher, taller, chunkier, what's the word? higher density, the bigger buildings. I think that's the word I was looking for. The couple of bigger buildings in here, you know, chunky. That's how you describe buildings. I think it's kind of helped to make the space look all right. It's definitely a bit more interesting than just a bunch of low-rise buildings. And I am really pleased with how this little redevelopment has turned out. We've kept things sort of on a grid. We got a little bit of weirdness thrown in here, which is great. Bit of a kink in the road. We don't kink shame around here, so it's totally fine to have that in there. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. It is definitely an improvement. The traffic is flowing really nicely around here, and we do already have almost 10,000 people using the buses. So even though we have a fraction of the bus lines that we had before, the buses are turning out to be pretty successful. They're obviously going out to all of these places that they were before. They aren't going out to the industrial space just yet. And actually, I totally forgot to bring buses out to the farmland out here, which it's not the end of the world, so we're not really going to worry too much about it. But the buses are doing what I want them to do. There are 120 people waiting here for a bus to come by. We are using all of the little bus stops that we had up here by Emerson Station as well. So hopefully people are going to be getting around just as effectively, if not more effectively, than ever before. Either way, thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.